What's going on, Pro Truth? I guess we need to talk about paternity fraud, paternity tests, DNA tests. You know what, brothers? I'm going to go ahead and just get into the video. And I'll be chiming in throughout the video. Let's get to it.
A bill to prevent unmarried men from claiming a child that isn't biologically their own. Last week, House Bill 2698 passed the Children and Family Affairs Subcommittee, but not without a challenge from the Tennessee Department of Human Services. Tennessee Representative Antonio Parkinson is sponsoring the House version of the bill. He says the bill will help those men forced to pay child support after finding out the child was not biologically theirs. He joins us right now. He's also chair of the Tennessee Black Caucus. Glad to have you back on the show. So this is kind of basic. How in the hell can you be paying for a child? It ain't yours.
Yeah, we think it's basic. Let me throw this out there first. 1/3 of the signatures on birth certificates today are not the biological father. Think about that. That's a huge number. 33%. 33% of the people that have signed the biological.
Brothers, 33%. 33%. And we're talking about just America. Now, I don't know exactly how many Americans are, well, we'll just say American men are in the United States. We'll just say 1 million. You do the math. 33% times 1 million. And you'll get your number. See, people, they think this is this is small. But this ain't. And brothers, think about it. These are the ones that have been tested. What about the men that have not been tested? If every man today was tested, every man that has a child was tested today to find out if that was their child, I honestly believe the numbers would increase dramatically. I believe it will be over 50%. And nothing is being done. Nothing. You brothers that like to vote, these are the things that you should be trying to argue about. You want to fix the so-called black community? I promise you that if DNA test was mandatory, it would probably at least fix some of the problems in the so-called black community with these women.
Acknowledgement of paternity are not the actual father. Now, here's the rub. That means that there are 33% of real biological fathers whose children have been stolen from them through this voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. I lean on the side that I think most fathers want to be in their children's lives. So that 33% has been robbed legally, state-sponsored, of the opportunity to be a parent to their children. Think about that.
So how does that work? That is, like, who decides to write in the father portion?
So anybody can sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity as long as the mother is okay with it. The only thing that they have to do is sign it in front of a notary, but there are no guardrails that would ensure that this person is actually the biological father.
So is your position that whoever is actually the biological father, they should be notified that they're the father? But where does but what happens though if you are someone and you've been told it's yours, and here you are forced to pay child support, then you find out it's not yours?
Yeah, and that's exactly how I got on this situation. I had a young man stop me in the barbershop, and he said, I thought I had a child with a lady that I was in a long-term relationship with. We went to juvenile court. When her mother told me that she'd been with her ex-boyfriend the whole time, I got a DNA test, went to juvenile court. The juvenile court magistrate banged the gavel down, said somebody's got to feed him, and it's going to be you. And he was stuck with that child support. Not just that, but he walked out of that court in arrears because they went back to the birth of the child. And when he did not get
wait, hold on. They're in court. They established he is not the biological father, and the judge still said you got to pay?
The judge still said you got to pay. And the way this thing works is this: when you voluntarily sign, you got 60 days to take your name back off of there. And I had a person to come to me and say, well, he could always ask the lady for a DNA test. I said, well, okay, let's talk about that. You're in the hospital. You know, probably the grandparents are around, the other siblings. You're in there with the lady and she's holding her new bundle of joy, and you're in a relationship with this person. And so you're going to turn around and say, hey, oh yeah, by the way, I want to get a DNA test. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Your relationship is over with at that point. If the DNA results come back say you are the father, your relationship is over with. If the DNA test comes back say you're not the father, your relationship is over with.
Now, brothers, in order to fix that situation, matter of fact, let me go back, because I did a video on the brother that he was talking about that went to court, and he still had to pay child support even though that wasn't his child. Even though he took the DNA test and showed that it wasn't his child, he still got put on. And that reason for that is because he signed a birth certificate. But let's get on to the part about with this guy saying that, you know, if you're in the hospital and you take the DNA test, your relationship is over. Brothers, let me tell you one way to fix that. You tell the woman from the get-go, before y'all even have a child, you let her know that if we have a child, I want to take a DNA test. You have to be able to protect yourself at the end of the day, brothers. It's just a protection thing. Because you want to make sure that's your child. Now, if she gets upset, it'll be okay. You didn't have a child with her. So brothers, don't wait until you're in the hospital to go and try to take a DNA test. Not to say that there's nothing wrong with that, because you still need to protect yourself. Because if you're going to do that, just make sure that you take the DNA test before you sign the birth certificate. But brothers, to avoid all of that confusion and conflict and chaos, just let her know from the get-go that if we just happen to have a child, I want to take a DNA test for my protection. That's it. Tell her that maybe your mother told you that you should take a DNA test. Tell her that. But let her know from the beginning, brothers. Don't wait until you get to the hospital. If you want to keep your relationship, because you know these women they're going to be all through their emotions, having a baby, then you telling her that you want to take a DNA test, you know things are going to go out of whack. So don't wait until you get there. Let her know from the get-go.
And so that's not reality, right? And I had a young man, I've gotten more calls about this than any other bill I've passed, right? I had a young man call me today. He said, I was 19 years old and I was in the hospital, all her family's around, and there was no way that I could ask for a DNA test. No way, right? And so what we're doing is making it required only to validate your name on that birth certificate. So what we're saying is this: you can still voluntarily sign, but you have to produce DNA results that say you are the actual father, so that your name can be validated on that birth certificate.
So who is paying for that? So is that going to be the state? Is that going to be the individual? So how's this thing going to work out? That when a child is born, are they going to take the DNA at that moment? I mean, so what's going to actually happen?
So brothers, I'm gonna let it play out, but you know he didn't even answer the question. That was a good question. Who's going to pay? I'm gonna just tell you, brother, before because he's not gonna answer the question, brother. I'm gonna just tell you now, just save about $500-600, just in case, because the state's not going to pay for it. So go ahead and save your money up, so that way you'll be ready. Let's continue.
How it works. So, and I got to give you a little background for you to understand this. Per Health and Human Services in DC, they say the states have to have 3 ways of acknowledging paternity. 3 ways. One is voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. And that's for people that want to sign. And this is who we're targeting, right? Then you have DNA tests for contested births, ones that didn't want to sign, right? Then you have the fact that people are married. So it's automatically presumed by law that the father in a marriage is the father of the child. But we're focusing on voluntary acknowledgement, the ones that want to voluntarily sign. They feel like, or have been told, maybe by the mother, or had been led to believe that they are the father of this child, right? And so they want to sign. And we don't have a problem with that. You can want to sign and sign. But it will not, the process will not be complete until you produce the results of the DNA saying that you are the actual father. Because if that DNA test comes back and says you're not the father, then it's paternity fraud for you to sign on there. And if that DNA test comes back and says you are the father, then it will be validated. But think about this though, and this is the angle I'm coming from on this. Not to fault women or anybody else, but I believe that if you are a father by DNA, you deserve the right, you have the right to be a parent to your child legally. Then under the law right now, they are taking that right away from the actual biological parent by not having safeguards in place to make sure it's the biological parent that gets that right. Because once you sign, you are the legal parent of that child.
Questions from my panel. Jeff? You
Want to
unmute?
make sure I hit
There you
that.
go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm here. Thanks, Representative Parkinson, down the street from you in Nashville. Man, it's good to see you here. Know a lot of people who talk about the work that you're doing. Congratulations. Listen, there are tons of stories that you're saying.
Oh my God.
As a pastor, I have tons of people. I had a gentleman come years ago. He spent 19 years paying
Right.
child support and got into an argument with who was his wife at the time, and that was when she revealed that it wasn't his and there was nothing he could do. There are tons of stories like this. Let me ask you about the state and the federal uh, complex here around this, because when people say, well, it's about just getting a DNA test or not, there's an entire court system involved. Tell me about this. There's a 40% match that the
Oh man.
state or the federal government gets from circumstances like this. Can you talk about that so that people can know that this is bigger than just a few people taking a DNA test?
Thank you for the alley oop. That felt like an alley oop anyway. And I need Roland to understand. Roland, thank you for this platform because you are breaking a major story nationally with this.
Yes.
Think about it. People ask me, well, why is the Department of Human Services fighting you so hard on this bill? They are throwing the kitchen sink at me to stop this bill from passing. Well, here's the reason. They get paid for people to blindly sign on a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Three things that's happening. They're chasing a 90% quota of acknowledged births in the state. They get millions of dollars for reaching that 90% quota and then get a bonus of more millions for surpassing that 90% quota.
Now, brothers, how many times I've done a lot of court cases on DNA test. I've also said a lot, and he's just talking about the state of Tennessee that gets millions. Brothers, they're getting millions of money off of you for child support and everything else. Millions. I believe that, child support is $1 billion industry. And you have men that are paying for children doesn't even belong to them. And they don't care. So why would you fight that? Again, brothers, they're fighting so they can get paid off of you. So why would you not want to fight to make DNA tests mandatory? Why would you not want to fight for that? Especially to you brothers that vote, that should be one of your concerns. It should be. Because guess what? The woman, all she's going to get is a slap on the wrist after everything is done. Let's continue.
What would happen if a person sees the DNA test and say, hey, whoa, not mine? They're not going to sign. So that quota may be in jeopardy. Second piece, they also get $52 million here in the state of Tennessee to have a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program in place. This money goes to child support enforcement programs. Then thirdly, For every single child support order, they receive a 40% match from the
Yeah.
federal government. So it's state sponsored. Think about what I'm saying. This is state sponsored child theft, paternity fraud, however you want to call it, but they are literally taking children from some biological fathers.
Let's
Excellent.
go. Crystal, your question.
I want to say good to see you, Representative Parkinson.
Hey,
Also
friend.
affectionately known as Touche.
That's
That's what we
right.
call him down in Memphis. But I want to ask a question just from the female perspective. I think a lot of what you're talking about, men experience these hardships because they, agree to something that they obviously were misled or tricked or whatever the case may be. But is there any kind of legislative tools you can use so that women will be discouraged from doing this in the future? Meaning that if I'm asking a man to sign my child's birth certificate knowingly, with the knowledge that he is not the father, and then it comes out later, 19 years, as Carr just stated, or in the case that you brought up, years or months later, what are the repercussions for women? Like, what are the repercussions for the woman who acted egregiously in this manner? So I'm just curious, like, what can be
Yeah.
done? And then, are there any legislative tools that can be put in place in our state legislature to ensure that this doesn't happen again? That women will stop doing this and men will be better informed, obviously, but also and I'm not saying every woman has done this and does this intentionally, but there are some bad actors out there. And so I'm just curious what can be done.
Interesting.
The answer to your question before he answers is no. They have nothing. Now, I've seen something where they're saying that they're going to start putting women in jail for paternity fraud, but they ain't got anything. They don't have anything. Women have been doing this for years. Years. The only country in the world where it is mandatory for DNA tests is Kuwait. The only country. No other country. So, again, the answer to your question, young lady, is no. But I'm going to go ahead and let him answer it now.
The majority of the support in regards to this legislation is coming from women. So I would say 99.9% of the people who have contacted me about this legislation, most of them were women, and 99.9% of them were tremendously in favor of this legislation. Let me answer your last question first. If we enact this bill, it kills any paternity fraud because we will know on the front end. And I want you to think about something. An individual that's going through this has gone through multiple traumas, including their child. Like in the case of the guy that brought this to me first, the child was 5 years and 1 month old. And so when he brought it to juvenile court, he was 1 month past the 5 year statute of limitation to rescind his voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. And so think about what happened. You got the trauma of the grandmother telling you that your girlfriend wasn't faithful. Then you got the trauma of the DNA test that comes back that you're not this kid's father and you've been raising this kid for 5 years, right? Saw this kid being birthed. Then you have the trauma of the magistrate saying, nope, you're stuck and you're gonna be paying for child support until this child ages out. Then the trauma of he lost his license because they were enforcing. He couldn't get caught up. He was riding dirty, got pulled over, got sent to jail. When he went to jail, he was in jail for about 3 or 4 days, lost his job. And he had another child that was his biological child that he was supporting. This man's life was turned completely upside down when it could have simply been fixed on the front end.
Yep.
But now, the state of Tennessee Department of Human Services wants it to continue. And that's crazy because lives are being affected by.
You see, brothers, they don't care. I tell y'all this all the time. They don't care about you. You are on the bottom of the totem pole. I know y'all heard that. Y'all heard that story. Y'all just heard that story. Took his license. Dude still got to go to work. He gets pulled over, goes to jail, loses his job, but yet they still expect you to pay child support. And on top of that, the child's not even his. And he actually has a child with someone else that he has to take care of. So, brothers, when you go to court, you're not only fighting the woman, you are also fighting the state. And the state is not going to be on your side. So don't let these women tell you that they are the most, they get disrespected more than any other demographic in the world. They are lying. You brothers are the ones that are on the bottom of the totem pole, and they don't care about you. Whenever I watch some of these Judge Mathis court cases and you see the woman does something stupid, they laugh. It's funny. It's funny to them. But if a man did that, it's a lot of oohs and ahs. They don't care about you, black man. They don't care about you. So even when these women say that, oh, I love my black man, they lying. They love what you could do for them. That's it. Let's continue.
Situation when it's a simple fix. Just find out and make sure that this is the actual father and take it out of the father's hand. Make it mandatory. And so he doesn't have to ask for it. I think it would actually encourage more people to voluntarily acknowledge and sign because they know a DNA test is coming with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Omakongo, your question.
Yeah, I've been kind of bug-eyed throughout this whole segment because I was just completely unaware. So this is really a breaking story. The question that I have is, first of all, thank you for your efforts on this. I'm wondering, are you hearing anything from the actual biological fathers, the ones who didn't get an opportunity to sign the certificate? Is there pushback from them, or are they in support of this? What kind of feedback are you getting? I'm sure many of them may not even know, but for the ones who do, are you hearing from them?
Most of the people that I know, most of the men that I know that have any involvement in this situation want to be a father to the children. I just feel so bad for that person that did not get the opportunity, either because the woman did not tell them that they were possibly a father. But let me tell you about this phone call that I got on my way from Memphis to Nashville today. This lady, she's older than I am, and she called me. She said, "Thank you for running this legislation." And she went on to explain this to me. I just met my father because they kept it from me and told me that my stepfather was my father all of my life. I met my father. The reason I met my father was because he is right now going through treatment for, I forgot what kind of cancer it was that he has. She said,
Brother, before he finishes, you gotta wonder what was the point of them lying to her about her biological father? What was the point of that? And that's another thing. Your father might have something, just like they said, cancer. I mean, even something simple as a receding hairline. And you're wondering how come your stepdad doesn't have a receding hairline, good hair, and you about to lose your hair at the age of 21 or 22. And wondering if that's hereditary. Come to find out, oh, by the way, this is not your biological father. That's devastating. And brother, the reason why I've done a lot of videos on DNA tests because it hits home. It's happened to me. And I don't want another brother to go through something what I went through. So these stuff is very important. Very important, brothers. Very important. So I do advise you to take a DNA test, just in case. It might even mean that you might lose the woman. Oh well. Believe me, there's more fish in the sea. Believe me, she can be replaced just like that. Women have a harder time trying to find a man than men do. But again, brothers, take a DNA test. It's very important.
if I would not have met him, I would not have known that I am high risk for this cancer. And now I'm being screened. Think about that.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
Unbelievable. And state sponsored. They are
Hmm.
they are encouraging people to blindly sign because they are motivated by money.
Mm-hmm.
Millions.
I hope y'all heard that. Motivated by money. It's all about the money for the government. If they can find a way to get money out of it, they will. You're considered a debt slave here in the United States. And for you brothers, I keep telling y'all brothers, they don't care. They'll work you to the death. And then you're just another number to them. So, as you can see, it's all about the money for them. But let's continue.
Millions and millions of dollars that are churning from Health and Human Services in DC, right? And they are what the state of Tennessee is doing is loosely interpreting the
Yep.
regulations from Health and Human Services to say that if we add a DNA test, we will be out of compliance and lose this money. But it has been told to me by an HHS attorney that the federal government only lays out the minimum requirements for your voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. Everything else is left up to the states. The feds never said what a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program looks like. They just said it needs to include this, and that's it. And so the states have the ability to make their program what they want it to be. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we can reach this 90% quota if we
Right.
just get all people signing, regardless of whether or not they're the father or not. Unbelievable.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Folks, I appreciate it. Representative Parkinson, thank you so very much. Keep us abreast
Thank you.
of
Thank
how
you.
this bill goes through committee, through the legislature.
Thank you.
Brothers, I'm going to just say this, and I think I've already said this earlier. Look, y'all need to be trying to fight for stuff like this. I know y'all want to go to the polls. Hopefully y'all don't, I don't know, y'all either voting for Kamala or y'all voting for Trump. Y'all should bring issues up like this. Of course, it ain't going to work just bringing it straight to the president, but bring it to one of your government officials in your state. I don't vote, so, I don't really care who becomes president. I probably should, but I don't. I really don't. I think it's going to be chaos if Kamala become president. But that's neither here or there. Brothers, stuff like this is very important. All right? If you plan on having a child, let your woman know that you plan on taking a DNA test. Very important. But that's pretty much it. I'm out.